Is buying a home in Prosper, Texas a smart move right now? Watch before you buy.
Hey everyone, I'm Holly Haven.
And I'm Andy Haven.
We are the Haven Home Team. We are your resource for all things North Texas real estate.
Today we're diving into the key factors you need to know before you make a move. Whether you're ready to buy now or just planning ahead, this video will help you out.
All right, Andy, let's get started.
First, we want to talk about the current market conditions in Prosper, Texas. So what we're seeing right now is about $850,000 average sale price as of September 2025. So the homes in Prosper are holding their value really great.
Absolutely. We definitely saw that big increase during the COVID years, and we are settling.
Absolutely. And Prosper's not growing as fast as it was. We have kind of maxed out our land capacity at this point. There's not a ton of new neighborhoods. So what you're seeing on the market is kind of what you get.
Absolutely. And we're seeing longer days on the market right now.
We are. Yeah. And that's kind of just traditionally how the market lies, but we are seeing it pick up a little bit from the summer months, which is kind of crazy. We had a slow summer.
We did. But this is definitely the moment we have switched from a very strong seller's market to a pretty strong buyer's market. And really, this is the first time we felt a market quite this buyer leaning since almost 2012.
Yeah, and I think honestly, if you've been trying to get into Prosper and honestly the prices were just pricing you out, this is a great chance to get into Prosper. A lot of sellers are a little bit more lenient. Maybe they have somewhere to go and they need to sell the house. You're going to see a lot of vacant homes currently on the market. So again, if you go into a home that's vacant, you might have a little bit more leverage than one that's currently being lived in because that seller might need to sell immediately.
Absolutely. And mortgage rates have dipped just a little bit. We're kind of getting to that high 5, low 6s, which is a historically average, really good interest rate. I need everybody to hear that. 5 to 6% is a really good interest rate.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, this is, like she said, a great interest rate, but if it were to fall, you can always refinance in the future, but we don't expect it to fall like it did during COVID. So if you've been on the fence, this is a great time to buy with your buying power.
Yeah, and in those market conditions, because we have more inventory and we are leaning more to that buyer's market, we are seeing builders offer a ton of incentives, upgrade packages, buying down interest rates, closing incentives, $40,000 off the total sales price. We have lots of those things happening right now. So really the market conditions are really, really great for buyers.
Yeah, and like we were talking about earlier, Prosper is not growing a ton with new builds. So what is available is probably all that's going to be available. So if you want a new build, go ahead and take that opportunity to do that.
Second up on the list is school districts and community appeal.
Yeah, this is a big one. I think this is really what drives a lot of people to Prosper, other than the fact that transportation is a little bit easier to get on the tollway and all of the main areas. But I do think that the schools are really what drive people to move to the area.
Yeah, across the school district, it has an A rating, which is very, very strong. So we're seeing high test scores. We have lots and lots of options for students within the school district, whether it's FFA or STEM and engineering and robotics, band, football, all the athletics. There's just really a lot to offer kids of whatever interest that they have.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do have 4 high schools now. So there are kind of some changes going on in the ISD. And as Prosper continues to grow school district wise, you will likely be rezoned fairly often over the next few years. They might start to cap out soon. I don't know how many high schools they're intending.
They're planned for 6 high schools originally. So we should probably see another couple of high schools over the next several years. But that does affect even elementary schools, middle schools, as this district continues to grow, as the families move into these neighborhoods that aren't finished out yet, new construction, we're going to see that continue. So really knowing that where you buy the house is where you're zoned today, it does not mean that's the school you'll be zoned to forever. You will never be zoned to another school district. You'll stay inside the ISD, but those school zonings are definitely changing year by year right now.
Yeah, they seem every single year that an elementary school district gets a little smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller because there's more kids and more schools and everything. So just kind of stay tuned for that or watch out for that. And if you're looking at buying a house for the next school year, you may want to confirm for the next school year and not this school year. So that's just something to keep in mind.
Yeah, those maps don't usually come out until like March of the school year prior. So knowing that that's coming out pretty quickly will help families who really do need to stay within a certain bound or really looking to get into certain high school or something like that.
Next, we have taxes and ownership costs. So this is something that we talk about fairly often in all of the northern area of Texas. So this is something that you'll want to get a good idea of what it's all going to cost. There's 2 counties that you could be in the city of Prosper. So you can be in Collin County or Denton County. Denton County generally has lower taxes. Collin is a little bit higher. City of Prosper taxes are higher than pretty much any other city too. So it's just something you'll want to get that estimate. And some of these newer neighborhoods, actually pretty much every single new neighborhood will have a mud or PID, which is an additional tax on top of school district taxes, county taxes, city taxes. So if that's something that you're really concerned about, definitely do a deep dive on that.
Yeah, asking your agent, what is the tax rate for this house? Now, it's really hard when you're shopping, you're looking at multiple homes. You're not going to know that going into every single property more than likely.
Yeah.
However, once you've narrowed it down, you have 2, 3 of your top favorites, then really having your agent or your lender run those numbers with the closest estimate possible can make a big impact. We can see, if we're in the county, we can have as low as 1.7%. And if we're in a neighborhood like Light Farms with a mud, we can have as high as 2.75%. So that's a pretty significant difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And you'll want to kind of dive into the utilities as well. There's Mustang water, which is something that's generally a lot cheaper. If you're in Salina, that's a total different ballgame because it's going to be way cheaper. But kind of just getting an estimate on all of your home costs and what your recurring costs are going to be for living in that home.
All right. Next, and super important, infrastructure, commute, and just the growth trajectory. What is happening in Prosper?
Yeah, so we are seeing a lot happening actually. And although Prosper is so small, I feel like we get the brunt of all of the traffic and all of the construction.
Yeah.
So we are seeing the 380 overpasses open up. It is the greatest thing to ever happen to Prosper, Texas.
That is a huge alleviation of traffic pattern jam.
Absolutely.
It's a major east and west corridor, and it was nothing but red light after red light after red light with tons of residential, commercial, and retail all along 380.
Yeah.
So these overpasses they're going to be a huge impact. It's just opened, and we're already seeing that. We also have the outer loop coming. So coming from 75 to 35.
Oh, it actually just opened.
Yeah. So part of
Salina to McKinney.
Yeah. So part of that just opened. So that's going to alleviate some of the traffic. It's going to push them north off of 380 as that continues to expand. Obviously, with the Dallas North Tollway, it's going to continue on up towards Oklahoma, making all of those commute times a little bit faster and a little bit better. So I would say really expecting that short-term delay, knowing that it's going to be a long-term benefit for all residents of Prosper. And we did discuss a little bit why Prosper kind of sits in the middle. So Frisco's massive, right? It's been massive for years. It's been a huge draw to North Texas. Salina is the next Frisco.
Especially based on size and land mass, it is bigger than Frisco.
Yeah. So it is planned to really be the next Frisco, and Prosper sits directly between them. So it's going to be that pass-through traffic.
Yeah, and we're seeing a lot of the developments such as Gates of Prosper kind of add on and grow. And we knew that was going to happen, but that has started to grow.
Yeah.
So that has, you don't have to go to Frisco for everything now, which is awesome, but we're still having a lot of construction and will continue to have a lot of retail construction and commercial construction for quite a few years to come.
Yeah, so when you're buying a home, if you're really looking at Prosper, you kind of need to know what your commute looks like. That's going to be the biggest help for us to help you find the right neighborhood, because commute times make a huge difference depending on which side of Prosper that you're on, depending on where you're trying to go for work, and maybe your times of day that you're traveling, your commute times. So the more you know about that, the better we can guide you into getting you into the neighborhood that really makes the most sense for your family's lifestyle needs.
Next, we have new construction versus resale value. So this is something we touched on a little bit previously in the video, and it's not a huge concern in Prosper any longer, as there are not a lot of builders going on right now.
Yeah, we still have quite a bit, especially inside Prosper ISD. So we may be outside the Prosper city limits, but still going to Prosper ISD.
Yeah.
So we can kind of include those in this conversation, I think, as well, because that's a big draw for a lot of people. They don't care which city they're in. They're looking for a certain school or a certain zoning. But we're having, our builders are buying down interest rates, fixed and short term. So we have lots of options there.
I saw recently there was a builder that was buying down to 1.99%, which is insane. It was like a 3.99 fixed, but they bought it down to 1.99.
Yep.
Which is insane. That's unheard of. And if that's something you can get your hands on, why not?
Yeah, so we do have a lot of buyers. It's a conversation. What do you need in a home? What are you looking for to get out of your home? And if it's an established neighborhood, then we're looking at resale mostly, unless we're in a new phase of a pre-existing neighborhood, which is something that we see a lot of still. But if you're wanting mature trees, that's a pre-existing home.
Yeah, or if you're wanting a bigger lot.
A bigger lot, yeah, mostly a pre-existing home. So those things are going to definitely impact what you're paying, what those negotiations look like. Do we need repairs, right? We go in, we make our offer on pre-existing, Then we do the inspection, and then we find out, we might have problems.
Yeah.
Benefit of buying that new construction is we walk in with that
Warranty.
1 year, 2 year, 5 year, 10-year warranty plan, and it makes a big difference, especially for maybe a new homeowner, first time homeowner.
Yeah, and with equity growth, that's something that you're not going to see a big concern with this in Prosper. You are likely to gain equity quicker in a new build just because it hasn't caught up with market value or the builders are offering great incentives, but you're still going to have great equity growth in a pre-existing home, especially depending on the neighborhood, the lot, where you're located is a huge draw in Prosper.
Yeah, so really looking at the big picture, right? What does the community offer? Does the pre-existing community give you everything that you're looking for? Do you need to go to a new neighborhood to really get the things that you want? And then the taxes are going to be, which we discussed earlier, are going to be a pretty significant difference, usually between a pre-existing home. We're going to see those in most cases be slightly lower than the new home communities because they are going to have a mud and a PID. Also looking at HOA fees and dues, with what they offer. So all of those things will impact your decision and your monthly mortgage. Up next, risk factors and due diligence. So some of these things are harder to see in advance, right? We know where a neighborhood sits. We don't really have flood zones within our planned communities. So while you may see it in some, outlying areas, it's not something we're really going to see in our HOA neighborhoods. But honestly, finding out what those HOA dues are, what they cover, do they have, kind of some back dues that need to be paid for big changes or updates. All of those things can impact the homeowner as they're buying a new property. You can kind of walk into a mess unintentionally. So, all those things are really something that you need to think about.
Yeah, and I actually ran into something recently where the HOA requirement was that the homeowner own the home for at least 2 years prior to using it as a rental. This is not 2 years total. This is every single time a new owner takes over, it starts over the clock for 2 years. So if you want something to be an investment property, you're going to want to hold that property and live in it for 2 years. Also, it's going to help with your taxes in the future, or not your taxes, I apologize, your capital gains tax in the future. So that's something you'll want to keep in mind. If you want to use it you want to use it as a rental within a year, you will want to make sure that the HOA does not have any restrictions on that.
Yeah, and that's something that, we have had clients where something changed in the middle of our search. They were planning to move in, now they've decided not to, and they need to do something different. So that HOA ruling can really impact the use of the property. We also talk about kind of that due diligence. We really want to see that seller's disclosure document if we're in a pre-existing home prior to signing an offer or writing an offer. We want to know, has it had previous flood damage? When was the roof replaced, right? Are we going to be worrying about that on day one, or is the house pretty much, at least maintained? We're not expecting all new systems. It's a pre-existing home, but what has the maintenance been like on this house? What has been repaired? What has been replaced? And maybe having at least an idea of what you're walking into before we ever make the offer. But then we go through the inspection period and we get to renegotiate if needed as well.
Yeah, and if you're a seller, this is just a reminder that you want to go ahead and update those systems if there's something that's going to show up on an inspection report, right?
Absolutely. Just do the repairs that need to be done. It'll save everybody some time and grief.
Also, fill out that seller's disclosure when your agent sends it to you because it will help everybody in the long run.
I know, right? Give us as much information as possible is always best. So as the agent, when we're working with the buyer, those are the things we're looking for, and those are the things we ask for if they're not readily available. So ensuring that you have as much information up front is really going to be helpful for making those offers.
Yeah. Next, we just want to remind you why it makes the most sense to buy now rather than waiting until next year or 2 years, 5 years down the road. So the first thing that's going to be the greatest appeal, honestly, to buyers is that the home values are going to continue to increase. Taxes are going to continue to increase. If you buy now, you can go ahead and get your homestead. You can go ahead and lock in that sales price. If you wait, we have no idea how high the prices are going to get, and it might price you out.
Right. So historical average in North Texas is 6 to 7% increase in value year over year. Now, you're going to have COVID years where maybe we increased 15 to 20%, which means we're going to have a slowing pattern. And we've even had drop-offs since COVID. But when we go back to a 10, 15, 20 year average, we see 6 to 7% year over year increase. And that's really tells us that we're in a very safe place for long-term equity growth. And that is one of the big reasons that so many people want to buy in this North Texas area.
Yeah, and I think if, again, going back to pricing, if you've been priced out for all of the past years and COVID, you just couldn't compete with anybody, this is the time to buy. You have the buying power right now. Interest rates are lower than they've been in quite a while, and you have the opportunity to get some money back from these sellers. Go ahead and cover some of your realtor fees, kind of do what makes sense and make it possible for you to purchase and prosper.
So we know that it is a good time to buy now, but when would it be better to wait? What would be somebody's kind of key factor that we would say, wait, you might want to hold off?
Yeah, so there is a very specific area off of 1385 and 428, sorry, not 423, that is kind of an area that we're like, hey, if you are looking to sell, you need to sell right this second. If construction starts on 1385 and there is no way to get into the neighborhood, and now it's like, oh my gosh, who wants to buy in this neighborhood because there's so much construction, then we would suggest that you wait.
Yeah, definitely looking at where you need to be, what your commute looks like, what that lifestyle needs to be. Those are things that, we might talk to a family or a client and say, hey, ooh, this might not be the best time to buy in that area. Maybe we need to look elsewhere. Maybe we need to think about this. Really, the other time we really talk to our clients about possibly not buying right now, even if they're ready to buy, is if they're moving here from out of state, they don't really know where they want to be, and they don't feel fully informed and confident in that decision based on their timeline.
Yeah,
if
and
you have
that's
to make a
totally
fast move, that's tough.
I know, and I think it's better to get to the area and decide where you want to be within the school district. Maybe you commute to McKinney, and it would make much more sense to live on the west side of or the east side of Prosper rather than the west side of Prosper. So I do think that it makes sense to kind of get here, rent for a year, and then purchase, just so that you know that you're making a good investment.
Yeah, so making the decision that's best for you, your family, your needs, your timeline, that's really going to be the direction that we usually engage in that conversation is, this might not be the best time for you, or this might not be the best location for you. And we do try to help guide our clients in that, just based on what they're dealing with personally.
Next, we have the lifestyle and community experience within the city of Prosper. So Prosper is one of those towns that you are going to feel a small town feel for quite a while. I mean, the center of Prosper is downtown, and a lot of the stores and restaurants that are close to the downtown area, it's what has been here for the last 20 years. And the town of Prosper doesn't want to grow from the inside. They would rather fill in from the outside. So I think you're going to have that community feel for quite a while. They're investing a lot of money in sports fields, parks, ponds, walking trails that are all community based, which is going to be really nice, so that you don't have to pay to use a soccer field. You don't have to pay to go to the basketball court, whatever it may be. And I think that kind of brings in that small town feel as well. Yeah,
that continued growth within the community, more rooftops, more families, more kids means we have more soccer teams, more football teams, more softball teams, all of those things. So Prosper is doing a great job of really making sure that infrastructure and those things that families do need for lifestyle purposes are there. So that's going to be great. Nearby shopping, dining, all along 380 and right there on Preston at Gates of Prosper. We're going to finally start getting hotels and event centers and things like that are all coming to that kind of general area around
closer to the tollway.
380 and Preston, and then to the tollway, kind of that general area. And then everything that's happening in Frisco right now is drawing people to Prosper.
No, absolutely.
Number 10 on this list is future value outlook, which we've touched on several times kind of in different little parts throughout this video, but really the continued growth around Prosper, corporate relocations coming to the DFW Metroplex, send people to the suburbs. They get relocated here. They don't want to live in Dallas or Plano maybe. They're looking for that smaller town feel. Tollway completion, 380 completion, what do you call the bypass, the outer loop completion. All of those things are continuing to grow the future values of Prosper residents.
And hopefully with a lot of these commercial buildings and retail and shopping and all of that, we might see a decrease in property taxes hopefully soon. It does usually gives you a breath of fresh air whenever some of these retail taxes start to give the city money so that the taxpayers aren't providing for everything. So that's something that hopefully we'll see coming soon.
And the one thing that I think we hear from many of our buyers, especially if they're moving in from out of the area, is they love how new and fresh and modern Prosper feels. Because it is it's a very old town, but the growth has been more recent. So new grocery stores, new retail, all of those things. It just feels kind of fresh and, I'm not going to say there's no potholes. We still have a lot of potholes, but our roads are mostly new. Buildings are mostly new. It definitely has that fresh, modern feel.
Our bonus tip for you today is kind of just a few tips that you'll want to keep in mind before you buy. So something that we're telling a lot of buyers right now is you need to get pre-approved prior to purchasing. We are seeing a slower seller situation going on. So if you're listing your house, but you find your absolute dream home, we need to be pre-approved and know that you can hold 2 mortgages if you need a bridge loan, how that's going to work out. Because if you don't sell your other house, you're going to have a contingency. And it's just a whole big mess.
Well, and it happens. Even in a slower moving market, our buyers will fall in love with a property, not be ready to make the offer because they didn't go through that lending process. They didn't get the numbers up front. And then the best homes do sell. Somebody will buy that home. And usually it's about the time you fell in love with it, but weren't quite ready to make the offer.
Or whenever it hit 180 days and you're like, oh, nobody wants this property, and now there's 4 offers.
Multiple offers, yes. So we have seen some very strange things. So really just making sure that you have your ducks in a row is going to be a huge impact. Knowing what your monthly payment can be that is comfortable, and let us work backwards from there. Because then we're going to look at taxes and MUD and PID and HOA fees, and all of those things are going to impact that monthly mortgage payment. So we want to do as much of that up front as possible. Same thing with schools, right? Does the school district offer the services or classes that your student's looking for, athletics, all of those things, we definitely deal with those a lot.
Yeah, and I want to just go back and say that contingencies are not always bad. I didn't mean that they are always bad, but you want to know up front if you are going to have a contingent offer. We have to know that up front. So we can't make an offer without knowing what your financial situation is going to look like. So we'll just want to get all of our ducks in a row. Be prepared to purchase if you want to purchase. If you're looking right now, don't fall in love with something unless you're ready to fall in love with something. Like that's kind of
exactly right.
That's kind of what we're looking at here. So if you guys have any questions or have any, topics that you would like us to talk about in the future, go ahead and leave those in the comments below. Follow us on all of our social medias, like, subscribe.
Share with your friends. And we'll be here every Friday.
Bye, guys.
Bye.